Hostiles detected. Civilians in danger. Heavily armored hostile detected.
Hello everybody, how y'all doing? My name is Rafael. Welcome to today's video, and today I have another Umbra Initiative build for you guys, but this time with the named Famas called Burnout. Now, when Umbra Initiative first came out, I posted 3 builds the first couple of days. You guys absolutely loved them, but I felt like I was posting too much of the same gear set, so I took a long break from the gear set, and the one weapon, the one build that I never got to show you guys that I had in my mind since then was Umbra Initiative with the Burnout. The reason for that is pretty straightforward. Famas has one of the highest RPMs in the entire game, and with the Umbra Initiative giving us an insane increase in our RPM, all the way up to 30% if we have 100 stacks. That means that the Famas will be like a laser beam. However, the Famas also comes with a pretty hard to control recoil, bad accuracy, and things like that. So the way to counter this is to use the named version of the Famas called Burnout, because it has the perfectly on empty talent on it. Reloading from empty grants 40% weapon handling for 10 seconds, and as you watched from the gameplay earlier in the background, you must have noticed that my RPM was truly insane and my recoil was almost non-existent. If you can make a good use of the talent, if you can make sure to not reload before you run out of bullets, so you can make sure your talent is always active, then you will be able to use these Famas with more than 1000 RPM like a laser beam without having to worry about recoil and things like that. Now, the build, as you can see here, is a very basic build. 4 gear set pieces, including the backpack and the chest piece, and then 2 brand set pieces. Obviously, this is the most simple version you can go with it. You can get a Fenris AB piece for the 10% assault rifle damage, and then the Fox sprays for the 8% damage target side of cover. I want to show you guys how the easiest to get version of this build actually performs. Great alternatives here, of course, would be things like the Coyote Mask, which would increase your critical hit damage even more, or the Memento, because the backpack really only gives us extra survivability, and if we're going with a full red build, we might not want that, so Memento would help a lot with our damage. Or maybe, you know, a Fenris AB backpack with vigilance in here, right? All those things are great alternatives. I just wanted to show you guys how this build performs in the simplest version of it and in the easiest version for you to get. So feel free to go with Coyote Mask, Fenris backpack with vigilance talent on it, or Memento, whatever you may like. You can also roll some blue core attributes instead of the red ones that I have over here, so you can have more survivability. Now, let's get into the actual pieces. Let me tell you what each piece has. If we go to the weapon, of course, we have maxed out assault rifle damage, maxed out health damage, and 10% damage target side of cover. We want that 10% damage target side of cover. On my Fox Prayers, we have maxed out weapon damage, maxed out critical hit damage, and of course the 8% damage targets out of cover, which helps a lot with the build. We have 18% damage targets out of cover in total. On my Fenris Group AB piece, for the 10% assault rifle damage, as we said earlier, we have 15% weapon damage, 12% critical hit damage, 6% critical hit chance. On the mask, maxed out weapon damage, maxed out critical hit damage, and a 12% critical hit damage gear mode attribute. The chest, 15% weapon damage, 12% critical hit damage, 6% critical hit chance gear mode attribute. And of course, we want the chest because it increases the stacks from the shadows buff. We will go over the gear set in a second here. Let me finish with the attributes. On the backpack, again, maxed out weapon damage, maxed out critical hit damage, and another 6% critical hit chance gear mode. And the last piece, of course, is the gloves. Again, maxed out weapon damage, maxed out critical hit damage. Right now, as the build is, we have 58% critical hit chance. Obviously, you can take out one critical hit chance gear mode attribute and go with 52% critical hit chance and increase your critical hit damage all the way up to 141%. And our critical hit damage right now sits at 129%, which of course will go all the way up to 229% when we reach full stacks on our Umbra Initiative gear set talents. So let's see what the Umbra Initiative gear set does for those of you who don't know. Umbra Initiative at 2 pieces will give us 15% critical hit chance, at 3 pieces 30% reload speed, and then at 4 pieces we will have the from the shadows and into the light buffs. Starting off with from the shadows talent, while in cover gain 10 stacks per second up to 50. Each stack will give you 1% critical hit damage and 0.3% RPM. That means that at 50 stacks we will have 50% extra critical hit damage and 15% increased RPM. This buff does not apply while we're shooting from cover. While out of cover, agents lose 2 stacks per second at normal speed and 1 stack per second if sprinting. So basically, as soon as we enter combat, we go behind cover and we start building up those stacks. When we reach max stacks, when we have the 50 stacks, we will get 50% extra critical hit damage and 15% extra RPM. However, in order to use those extra stats that we just got, we need to go out of cover. And that's why I'm playing with the shield, as you can see here, so that we can equip the shield and start using the first buff. Without the shield, it will be harder for us to survive getting hit and all that. The good thing is that if you equip the chest, it has a very nice talent on it. Increases max stacks for from the shadows, the buff that I just read to you guys, from 50 to 100, and stack gain from 10 to 20. So basically, we get 20 stacks per second as long as we're behind cover, which means that after 5 seconds behind cover, we will have 100 stacks, which will translate to 100% critical hit damage increase and 30% extra RPM. Now, if we go to the second talent here, into the light, while out of cover and in combat, gain 10 stacks per second up to 50. Each stack will give you 0.8% armor regeneration when it's consumed. Stacks consume 10 stacks per second only in cover. So, while we're out of cover and in combat, so while we're actually using the first talent, right, a second one starts stacking up. And that second one, again, gives us 10 stacks per second, all the way up to 50. And each of those stacks will give us 0.8% armor regeneration. So that's 8% armor regeneration per second. Now, when we reach the 50 stacks, we will have 40% armor regeneration. However, that armor regeneration can only be consumed as soon as we go behind cover again. And it's consumed by 10 stacks per second. So basically, we're getting that 8% armor per second as soon as we go back behind cover. Now, if you decide to go with a backpack, you will get a talent called Into the Light, which increases max stacks for Into the Light from 50 to 100, stack gains from 10 to 20, and stack consumption from 10 to 20. So basically, the max stacks that we can now get for as long as we're out of cover is 100 instead of 50. Each second, we get 20 stacks instead of 10, and those 20 stacks translate to 16% armor regeneration. Again, we can only consume those stacks, that armor regeneration, only as soon as we go behind cover, and we consume 20 stacks instead of 10. And of course, because the max stacks have been increased from 50 to 100, that means we will get 80% armor regeneration back and not just 40. So as you can see, Umbra Initiative is an awesome gear set when it comes to playing both aggressive with the increased RPM, with the increased critical hit damage, but also great if you want a more passive build, a build that guarantees your survivability. Having that armor generation is very crucial, and that's why a lot of people are actually going with a couple of blue cores, because having 700k armor, as you can see over here, really isn't that great. Yeah, you will get armor back, you will get that 80% of your armor back, but that 80% translates into very little armor, translates into what, 600k? Maybe 550, I don't know exactly the percentage, but that armor really isn't more than just a couple of hits from the enemy. So a lot of people will go with a couple of blue cores so they can actually have 1.2, 1.3 million armor. So that armor generation that they're getting back is actually meaningful. Now, I know that a lot of people are gonna talk about, you know, my damage per bullet from the gameplay that I showed you earlier, because it really isn't that high. However, what this build is great at doing is not hitting enemies very, very hard, but rather hitting enemies very, very fast. As you can see here, let me get my stacks. I'm hitting for 611 headshots, right? And on health, which really isn't that high of a number. However, it all comes down to how fast I can actually, you know, do that damage, right? As you can see, the RPM is truly insane. And yes, it's not hitting as hard as other full red builds or striker builds or heartbreaker builds. However, it is hitting faster than any of those builds, and it also allows you to get that great survivability by the armor regeneration as soon as you go behind cover. The last thing I want to talk about before we're done with this video is, of course, the specialization. I decided to go with Gunner because we get 10% armor on kill, which helps with our survivability. We get every third reload being 50% faster, which helps with our DPS. But most importantly, we get this talent over here. Rate of fire increased by 5% on kill for 5 seconds. So our RPM not only will be increased by 30% from the Umbra Initiative stacks, but it's also gonna get an extra 5% from the Gunner specialization. So yeah, that's it pretty much, guys. As I told you, plenty of great alternatives here. You can go with Coyote Mask, you can go with Memento, you can go with the Fenris AB branded backpack with Vigilance if you want more damage. Figure out what fits best your playstyle and you should be good to go. I just wanted to give you an idea. That's what all my videos are here pretty much for, giving you guys different sort of build ideas that you might not have think of or that you might not know of. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoy the content and you want to support the channel, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye bye.